Hello and welcome back to Mr. Haas's Math Help videos. Today we're looking at lesson 16, expressions. We've talked a little bit about expressions before, but they're kind of something that's not normal for sixth grade. So we're going to have to start from the very beginning. And what we've got is for an expression, first thing you got to do is understand what the words are telling you. Well, let's kind of like look at how we could see this. If we have the phrase two less than, you remember what less than means kind of from our inequalities. Two less than, well, that's going to mean that you've got something like -2 going on. If we read a phrase like 4 times a number, well, we don't know what the number is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a variable. And a variable is a number that we don't know. So let's put in a letter. But we know it's going to be multiplied by 4. So this would look like this: 4 and x. Remember that if there's no symbol, no operation symbol between two terms, then we've got multiplication going on here. So this is 4 times x. You can also see it sometimes where there's that dot, but this is why we no longer use that x, is because once we start using variables, it can get confusing if you've got 4xx. It's like, well, what's going on there? Anyway, so if we had 4 times the sum of, and we know that sum is addition, right? That's going to mean that we have 4 times the sum of. Well, that, you see, that means that you're going to do something. You're going to multiply this by something that you don't know, but we're going to use a parentheses to kind of separate those. That's what this is going to mean. You're going to have 4 times the sum of something else, ... We don't know what it is yet. It means you first have to add a couple of things or subtract or multiply. Do something else inside these parentheses. Okay? Another one that you could have would be 5 more than. Okay, 5 more than a number. Well, again, here we've got that unknown number. So you can put any letter you want in. I'm going to put in N for number, right? And we can do 5 more than. Well, generally we do the variable first. Then we're going to do more than. That's going to mean plus, right? And then there's our 5. So that would be the expression we'd get out of this. Okay? So here's what we've learned. 2 less than means we're going to subtract 2. 4 times a number is 4x, or 4 times x, right? We don't have to do this so much. We know that that's what that means, 4 times x. And then 4 times the sum of. That means pretty much you know that there's going to be addition in here because sum is addition. So we're going to be adding 2 things, 2 terms that are inside here that we don't know. And then there's 5 more than a number. Well, here's our number and 5 more than it, n plus 5. Okay, let's try one more. How about if I told you to subtract 2 from a number? Can you still see that over there? Yeah, just barely. So, squared. Let's do squared. Let's get really crazy. So subtract 2 from a number squared. All right, what's a number squared? Well, let's break it down here. A number squared, we don't know what the number is, so let's choose another variable. I'm just going to use the letter t, okay? We know squared means that there's 2 of them. This means we're going to have t times t. And then we're going to subtract 2 from that. So here's our -2. We're subtracting 2 from a number squared. There's our number squared, and there's our 2. So that's what that would look like, okay? Just getting to know our good old expressions here. So next, since we're talking about expressions, let's take a look at what each of the parts are called. I've kind of used them a little bit, but these are our parts, okay, of expressions. All right, I'm going to give us a nice expression here of 4m minus 8. Okay, there are these things called terms. A term is nothing more than a part. There are 2 terms here. This is a term, and this is a term. And actually, this term includes the minus 8. You don't see it, but this is a plus 4 over here. We don't write in the pluses. So there are parts. Terms are parts. So there are 2 terms in this expression. 4 times m is 1 term, minus 8. You could almost say it's a minus 1 times 8 if you wanted to look at it that way. Either way, we have our 2 terms here. Now, there are things called variables, and I've talked about them before, just a little bit ago. And a variable is that. So a variable, the variable is the letter. And you can have more than one variable in an expression. You can have the same variable just in different terms and going down the expression. Or you can have different variables, different letters, and it doesn't really matter. And sometimes what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to collect them all into groups. Like we'll put all the M's together and all the X's together and the Y's over there, and we'll get them all kind of consolidated. We'll add them up and subtract them, but that's another lesson. Okay, let's talk about a constant. Well, yeah, a constant. Constant. Well, a constant is something that's not going to change. This guy here, this 8, that's our constant, our minus 8. It's not going to change. That value is always going to be there. Constants are numbers with no letters next to them, okay? Now here's a funny word. This one's kind of hard to remember. Coefficient. And I'm having trouble spelling it. Efficient. Coefficient. Those are the numbers that are in front of numbers multiplied by the variables. Okay. Now you can have numbers like 2 minus 4 or 1/3. It doesn't matter. This would look like this. It would be 2x minus 4x and 1/3 times x. These are all terms that include a coefficient and a variable. Okay, so we have our variables and we have our coefficients. These are all multiplied by the variable. Okay, sound good so far? Not too hard. Oops, sorry. Now, let's do a quick replacing those variables with numbers. All right, so I have a nice little expression here. I'm going to put in 6y plus 2. And they're going to say stuff like 4y is equal to 3. All right, so wherever you see a y in this expression, you're going to put in the number 3. So again, we're going to put in our 6. We know that this is multiplication, right? Our coefficient times our variable. Here's our variable plus our constant right there. So now we've inserted the 3 in for the variable. Now we remember to use PEMDAS, right? We're going to do multiplication first, then addition. Could have had the 2 in front, add 2, we always do the multiplication before the addition. So here we have 18 plus the 2. That's going to give us 20. Okay? That's easy. Some of them will be much harder, but don't worry about it. You can do it. All right. So sometimes they're going to ask you to do things like combining fractions in variables. All right, so what I've got for us today, I have 1/6 for a coefficient, t. So that term is going to be 1/6 t, and I'm going to add to it 3/6 t. And I know that's 1/2, but I've already found my common denominator and made it, an equivalent fraction. So first thing we do is we combine them together, and I get 4/6 t's. Okay, I have 4/6. It'd be, we combine them together. Next, we can leave this unsimplified, or I can bring it down to a simplified where it is like 2/3 t. I like always being simplified so I don't get messed up. It's easier to use smaller numbers too. So if we then said, if let's say you had 54 math problems, Mr. Haas was really cruel to you today and said, you've got to do 54 math problems. Oh my God, why would I ever do that? All right, maybe I have. But you only did 2/3 of them. Well, how many did you do then? Well, it's very simple. Just like we did up here, we're going to take that 2/3 t, and we're going to put in this 54 for the t. All right, 54 times 54. Now you can either multiply by 2 and then divide by 3, because remember this is a division symbol, or you can divide by 3 and multiply by 2. You can do it either way. Watch. 2 times 54 equals 108 divided by 3. That equals 36, right? Or we could do 54 divided by 3. That's going to give us 18 multiplied by 2. Well, that's equal to 36 as well. So you did 36 problems. Very good. Thank you. All right. So let's look about some more, a little bit more. How about replacing variables with numbers or constants, getting the order correct? Okay, this one's kind of a little tricky here. So a little bit more of putting in numbers for variables, constants for variables. So let's say we had an expression of 2n to the third, or cubed, plus 4. And this is for n equals 3. Sound good? We can do this. So the correct way of doing it is we're going to put in our 2 times, and now we have 3 to the third power, or cubed, plus the 4. This changes into 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. That's what the 3 up here means. There's 3 of these guys. Whatever number this is, there's going to be 3 of them, plus the 4. Okay, so now we do PEMDAS. Well, you can do 3 times 3 is 6, times 3 times 3 plus 4. And then 18 times 3 plus 4. And then this is 54 plus 4 equals 58. So see, that's easy. No problem. A common mistake that some people do when we do this is they'll have that 2 times 3 cubed plus the 4. All right, they're going to make the mistake. They're going to do this multiplication here first and forget PEMDAS. So they're going to get 6 cubed plus 4. That means they're going to have 6 times 6 times 6 plus the 4. Well, that's 36 times 6 plus 4, which then gives us 216 plus 4 equals 220. Big difference. This is wrong. Okay, and that's because they didn't follow PEMDAS. So all the way back. Okay, well, thanks for stopping in and watching the video. See you later. Bye.